Standing by my husband, we joyfully greeted our new baby into the world, but my mother-in-law, whom I'll just refer to as her, shockingly stated that our baby wasn't cute. It's hard to believe anyone would say such a thing about their grandchild. Moreover, she treated me as if I were an outsider in my own home. I refuse to be treated as a victim. This is my account of dealing with a narcissistic mother-in-law who met her match in a resilient daughter-in-law. I'm Charlotte. I married my husband Bobby at 29, and we were thrilled when our son Jesse was born a year later. After maternity leave, when Jesse was 5 months old, I resumed my career and placed him in daycare. Some might question this decision due to his young age, but financial pressures made it necessary. Bobby's job was unstable, and his earnings had decreased significantly since our marriage. In fact, I was earning twice as much as he was. With the rising costs associated with a newborn, returning to work early was the practical choice for us. Fortunately, I love my job, so returning to work was not a burden. However, there was one significant opposition to this decision: my mother-in-law. She had moved in with us 2 months before and quickly became a constant source of criticism. She disapproved of almost everything I did, from how I raised Jesse to how I managed our home. "How can you leave such a young child in daycare? You're not fit to be a mother," she would say. "Traditionally, women should stay at home to look after the household. What century do you think we're living in?" She stubbornly held on to these outdated views, creating tension in our home. This is the story of navigating through these challenges, standing firm in my decisions, and not backing down in the face of unwarranted criticism. Every evening when I got home from work with Jesse, my mother-in-law would immediately start criticizing me. "You're working late again? Don't you feel guilty leaving Jesse?" I would explain patiently, "I spend all my days off with Jesse and he's doing well at daycare, so it's fine." But trying to reason with her never worked. She would just scowl and retort, "You're just taking the daycare worker's word for it. If you keep this up, the child won't turn out right." She never helped with Jesse, but was always ready to lecture me on parenting from her self-appointed high ground. Adding insult to injury, she didn't hesitate to attack my character. "I regret living with a daughter-in-law like you who only cares about work. Why did my son Bobby marry someone like you?" She would complain about feeling stressed every day, which was driving her crazy. Eventually, I reached my breaking point. "If it's that unbearable, should we reconsider living together?" I asked. She knew the reason why we had agreed to this arrangement. Originally, she lived in her husband's home until he had a severe traffic accident that left him paralyzed from the waist down. It was later discovered he also had dementia, making it impossible for her to care for him alone. Reluctantly, she moved into a care facility. She then insisted we move in with her, but both my husband and I had jobs, and given our daily commutes, relocating from our current home was not feasible. Then one day, without warning, she moved her belongings into our house and made herself at home. This living arrangement was not something we had agreed upon. She had taken it upon herself to impose it on us. It was an unwelcome intrusion. "Look, I understand things are difficult for you," I would say, trying to keep the peace. But living together under these tense conditions was becoming increasingly challenging. Given the circumstances with Dad, I tried to remain calm and keep my frustration under control. "That's why we agreed to this arrangement," I reminded her. "But we also agreed to respect each other's lives, right?" My mother-in-law shot back, unyielding. "Huh? Did we? I don't recall agreeing to anything like that." Her dismissive tone was frustrating, and it was clear she felt she could not be challenged. My patience was wearing thin. We agreed to this living situation with the understanding that we would respect each other's boundaries. "This is not what we discussed," I asserted, trying to hold my ground. She scoffed. "Oh, stop being so uptight. Why can't you be more like Anna? She's such a sweet, obedient girl." Anna, my sister-in-law, had married into the family and quickly adapted to the role of a full-time housewife, which endeared her to my mother-in-law. Unlike her cunning nature, her perceived character strengths won her favor easily. Without my consent, my mother-in-law often invited Anna over, and together they would gossip about me. "Did you hear Charlotte is still working?" my mother-in-law would say, shaking her head. Anna would quickly chime in, "Oh my, really, Jessie is so young, it's hard to believe she manages that." "You're so clever, unlike Charlotte, who hasn't chosen to be a full-time housewife," my mother-in-law would reply, emphasizing the contrast between Anna and me. "I won't have to worry when you have a child," she assured Anna, as if trying to draw a stark line between our choices. Despite my efforts to maintain peace, their petty comments continued, often spoken loudly enough for me to overhear. Over time, I grew to deeply resent their ongoing criticisms and their attempts to pit us against each other. Anna began to openly criticize me, seeking to curry favor with my mother-in-law. "You know," she would say pointedly, "doesn't my brother-in-law make about the same salary as my husband? Yet you're still working. Could it be that you're not good with money?" It was a low blow, considering that a few years ago, my husband did indeed earn as much as my brother-in-law. Their words, intended to undermine and provoke, only fueled my resolve to stand up for myself in this challenging family dynamic. Despite the decrease in his income, I had openly discussed my husband's company's financial struggles with my family, hoping for understanding, not criticism. Yet, every time Anna found an opportunity to criticize me, my mother-in-law eagerly chimed in. "Exactly," she would exclaim. "It's unbelievable how she blames others for her financial mismanagement and childcare responsibilities. Promise me you'll never become a wife like her, right?" To which Anna would dutifully respond, "Of course not, ma'am. I have so much respect for you." Their exchanges, filled with superficial compliments, were unbearable to witness and only added to my stress. Feeling at my wits' end living with my mother-in-law, I decided it was time to talk to my husband. "It's about your mother," I began. "She keeps inviting Anna over every day just to criticize me." My husband looked puzzled. "Mom does that? I usually get home after you, so I had no idea." "Yes, she does," I continued. "She promised not to interfere, but she's constantly complaining about me working. Anna joins in and they both gang up on me. I can't take it anymore." My husband paused for a moment before saying something unexpected. "But Stephen seems to get along well with Mom, right? Maybe you should try to find a middle ground with Mom too, Charlotte." I was flabbergasted. "Were you even listening to me? She's dismissing everything I am. How can I connect with someone like that?" My frustration was evident. He scratched his head, clearly irritated. "Don't get so worked up. Just try to act more like Anna for now. I'm sure Mom will warm up to you," he suggested. "What does that even mean? You want me to flatter her as Stephen does?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had hoped for his support, not advice to emulate someone else's sycophantic behavior. "I've had enough. I was foolish to ask for your help." I felt utterly isolated as frustration bubbled up inside me, realizing the gravity of my situation at home. Before I could control my rising anger, the snide remarks from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law carried on into the next day. As I began preparing dinner after returning from work, I overheard them. "Are you planning another half-hearted dinner tonight? I'm tired of your lazy cooking," my sister-in-law taunted. "That's because she insists on working, you know. If it were up to me or my mother-in-law, we would never serve our husbands such low-quality meals," she added smugly. For the record, my mother-in-law's culinary skills were hardly commendable. Her dishes were often overly seasoned and lacked flavor. And my sister-in-law? Her domestic prowess left much to be desired, given how often she seemed to depend on our hospitality instead of managing her household. Biting back my frustration, I continued with dinner preparations. When my husband came home, both my mother-in-law and Stephen instantly switched off their criticisms, adopting angelic demeanors that cast doubt on the complaints I had shared with my husband. Just as I was settling into this tense routine, a disruptive incident occurred. During a busy workday, I received an urgent call from the daycare. Frantically, I contacted my husband and we both rushed home. There, I found my mother-in-law with my tearful son in her arms. "What do you think you're doing, taking Jessie from daycare without asking me?" I exclaimed, my frustration boiling over. My mother-in-law sighed, her face a mask of faux exhaustion as she gave me a condescending look. "What's all the commotion about? I did it for my grandson. Besides, why waste money on childcare? Raising a child is a mother's responsibility, isn't it?" "But that's just your viewpoint, isn't it?" I countered firmly. "We have our reasons for sending Jesse to daycare. Taking him without permission is not only unacceptable, it's practically kidnapping." "Kidnapping, seriously?" she scoffed, dismissing the severity of her actions. "Regardless of whether he's my grandson, you ignored the daycare's protocols and took him. That's kidnapping, plain and simple." I stood my ground, making my point clear, but she merely shrugged it off, undeterred by the boundaries she had crossed. Then, my mother-in-law said something utterly shocking. "Oh, what nonsense! Neither you nor your son are cute. If you have a problem, just leave." Dismissing her grandson like that sent alarm bells ringing through my mind. To hear her insult her grandson like that made it clear we couldn't stay with her any longer. I vowed to protect my precious son at all costs. Just then, my husband Bobby arrived home. I wasted no time in telling him, "Bobby, it was your mother who took Jessie from daycare. I've had enough. I can't live with her anymore." Suddenly, my mother-in-law shifted into the role of a victim, feigning tears. "Oh, what can you believe what Charlotte is saying? She's accusing me of kidnapping. I just wanted to pick up sweet little Jessie, that's all. Is it so wrong to want to see him?" Her words ignited my anger further. "Stop pretending! You just insulted my son and told me to leave. This is our home, not yours. Are you trying to play the doting mother in front of my husband?" "Oh, Wood, please help me. Charlotte is always attacking me," my mother-in-law pleaded, turning to my husband. Watching her dramatic act, I couldn't help but find the situation absurd. If my husband chose to side with her over this poorly staged performance, I knew then it would be just my son and me moving forward together. The first to break the tense silence was my husband. "First, I need to talk with Charlotte. Mom, please go back to your room," he said firmly. This unexpected stand from my husband, who usually sided with his mother, left her wide-eyed in surprise. "What are you saying? You don't need to listen to Charlotte, do you? Can't you see how upset I am? Jesse's involved in this too. That's why I want to have a proper conversation with Charlotte as his parent," my mother-in-law protested, visibly dissatisfied. Her dissatisfaction was clear, but for the first time, it seemed my husband was ready to listen to my side of the story without her interference. Reluctant to upset my husband, we eventually spent several hours discussing the incident and the accumulation of issues leading up to it. After much deliberation, we finally reached a resolution. A few days later, we were ready to share the outcome with his mother. "Mom, sorry for the wait, but we've reached a decision," my husband said, his tone gentle yet firm. Judging by her expression, she seemed convinced that her son was siding with her. She burst into excited chatter. "So you're finally breaking free from Charlotte?" She hadn't even paused to grasp what had been said, and her face lit up with glee. Without waiting for an answer, she eagerly called my brother-in-law and his wife, ready as usual to malign me. "What a relief. Today we finally say goodbye to Charlotte, right?" she exclaimed over the phone. I replied with a calm smile, "Absolutely. Well then, hurry up and leave and take that not-so-cute kid who looks just like you with you. This house will be for me, Bobby, from now on." "Let's go, Charlotte," my husband finally spoke up after a moment of silence that hung heavily in the air. "Excuse me, let's go." "Oh, Wood, what?" my mother-in-law stammered, bewildered, repeating "what" several times as the realization slowly dawned on her. My husband and I began packing our things, preparing to leave with our son. That's when my mother-in-law stepped in, a desperate tone in her voice. "Wait, Bobby, what's happening? We're supposed to live together in this house, right?" Turning to her with a stern look, my husband declared, "I'm leaving with Charlotte. I can't tolerate your behavior any longer." Her confidence shattered. She trembled, then seemed to collapse inwardly. "Why would you take her side?" she pleaded. "I heard everything from the daycare center teacher, how you took Jessie without permission, yelled at the staff, and spoke ill of Charlotte. Everything. I never expected you to stoop to this level," he concluded, his disappointment evident. As we finished our preparations, it was clear that a new chapter was beginning for us, free from the negativity that had clouded our lives. My husband's realization came like a cold splash of reality as he faced his mother with stern resolve. "Mom, you've caused enough damage by surrounding yourself with people who only echo your views. Enjoy your life with them." With these words, he took my hand, signaling the beginning of our departure from a house filled with tension and hostility. As we walked out, my mother-in-law's cries echoed behind us, but we were resolute, moving forward to our new beginning. In the car, as we drove towards our new home, my husband's voice broke the silence with an apology that spoke volumes of his newfound clarity. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I hope you can forgive me." My response was immediate and sincere, filled with relief and love. "What are you talking about? Your actions now mean everything to me," I reassured him, grateful for his support and understanding, which cemented the bond between us even further. The decision to cut ties with his mother and brother-in-law's family wasn't made lightly, but it brought an immense sense of peace. In the following days, as we settled into our new life, the true repercussions of our departure became apparent. My mother-in-law, having alienated herself from us, found herself without options and moved in with my brother-in-law and his wife, Stephen. This shift quickly put a strain on their household, financially and emotionally, as Stephen, who had never worked before, was forced to find employment to manage the mounting bills. The household dynamics changed drastically. My mother-in-law, used to dominating every conversation and decision, now found herself increasingly isolated. With Stephen at work and no one at home to engage with her constant need for attention and validation, the arguments began. "I have to work because of you, mother-in-law," Stephen would exclaim in frustration during their frequent quarrels. "Oh, spare me! What, so now it's my fault? Leave, you old hack," she would retort, her patience worn thin by the new pressures of her life. These disputes peeled back the veneer of familial harmony, revealing the underlying tensions that had been masked by superficial politeness and manipulative behaviors. The once favored daughter-in-law's facade crumbled, revealing her true nature not only to her husband, but also to the wider family. The relationship deteriorated to the point where divorce seemed not just a possibility, but a likely outcome. Away from the chaos, our family found tranquility and a chance to heal and grow. My husband, my son, and I focused on building a supportive and loving environment, a stark contrast to the past we had left behind. No matter how tough things got for them or what new dramas unfolded in my mother-in-law's household, our decision to sever ties remained firm. Our future was now defined by the health and happiness of our family unit, unclouded by external negativity. As we move forward, our lives blossomed into a harmonious and fulfilling existence, proving that sometimes the hardest choices are the most necessary.